Kill Team Typhon is available to buy, or it is sold out, or you can buy the new Ravenors separately, or the world has been eaten by the Great Devourer, whichever is relevant at time of viewing. And if you want to get the Ravenors cheaper, check out the affiliate links in the description. Then you can get it cheaper than going through Games Workshop. Remember to click on the link before the end of the video. When the new Ravenors and Hyperadapted Raveners were announced for 40k within the June 2025 balance patch, I was generally dismissive of them. Playtesting changes minds. There is a good use, for the Ravenors. As a Genestealer Cult player, I'm mainly thinking of this unit in the final day detachment. While Tyranid players will get some ideas from it, I am not covering Codex Tyranid strategy like using them in the Subterranean Assault detachment. The Ravenors have one replacement datasheet and a new datasheet. The replacement datasheet, we think, is a change to the Ravenors. They are no longer a squad of 3 to 6, they are a squad of 5 sold in the Kill Team Typhon box as a unit of 5. The replacement of 5 Ravenors from the 3 to 6 Ravenors, it's different profiles, and you can no longer take the 3 cheap ones. As far as we know, that's how it will be. You have to pay for the unit of 5. This is also the annoyance of needing to source 2 more snaky boys or not using a model you have painted if you had 6 already. But with a little repainting to make them distinct, you have a parasite of Mortrex. Same base size, same general shape, a bit of effort in painting will show which one is distinct, and that's a Tyranid creature that's available in the final day detachment. To source 2 more Ravenors if you had 3, maybe Tyranid Warriors? Put them on a 40mm base? Wait, hang on, the Tyranid Warriors are sold on 50mm bases now? When did that happen? And when did they stop selling them on square bases? 2nd edition player problems. Perhaps the Ravenors in the squad size of 3 to 6 will become a Legends datasheet and continue to see play. Games Workshop just announced upcoming tournaments, and they allow Legends units at Warhammer World Nottingham. So don't think that Legends units are not for tournaments, or not for match play, or not for use. And when you're using Legends models at tournaments, according to this tournament, this Games Workshop tournament, they're not using the base size guide. You have to have them on the base the model is currently sold on. Even if the model isn't currently sold, as is the case for many Legends units. So there's no current base size, and even if you use the base size guide, there's no Legends units in there. They're not in the base size document, and this tournament is as official as you can get. It's a Games Workshop tournament at Nottingham. Checkmate base size purists. But the new Ravenors are on 40mm bases. So the Ravenors may be split into 3 versions. The older version, the newer version, and the Hyperadapted Ravener version. The 5 Ravener unit can complete missions, they can deep strike. Tyranid units are a good choice to complete secondary missions in the final day detachment due to lone operative, or in this case the unit's speed, to get to a place and do a thing. They can rapid ingress and move and charge very far, but with a 10-inch move you usually don't need to put them into deep strike. Have them on the table and they can get to where they need to be rather quickly. But to do all of those things, with a cheaper unit, consider 3 Von Ryan's Leapers. Equally fast, equally tough, but with a 6+ invulnerable save and stealth and fights first. While fights first isn't really part of a defensive profile, just having fights first will dissuade many enemies from charging you. Perhaps in your army list, deep striking 3 Ravenors used to beat out 3 infiltrating Von Ryans. Perhaps you had both units. In Final Day, I prefer lots of infiltrating units, so Lictors, Von Ryan's Leapers, and Pure Strain Genestealers can work together right away, either charging the enemy together to use Hyperferocity on the Pure Strains, or claiming objectives and using Lone Operative to not be shot. If I want deep striking units to pop up and charge, or pop up and hold objectives, or complete secondary missions, I have Genestealer Cult units. Acolytes, Neophytes, Metamorphs can all deep strike. And as the game goes on, I have more units in Cult Ambush because of resurgence points. They can also deep strike. The Ravenors feel extra redundant in the final day detachment because their unit ability lets them leave the battlefield in your opponent's turn and come back in your turn. As do all Tyranid and Genestealer Cult units in the final day detachment with resistance tunnels. So I'm less interested in 5 Ravenors or continuing to use 3 Ravenors, and more interested in the new unit, the Hyperadapted Raveners. If you take the unit by itself, not attaching it to another squad of Ravenors, you have 4 Hyperadapted Ravenors with the Ravener Prime. If they are not an attached unit, you can take damage on the Prime leader. The rule that prevents you from taking damage and attacks on the leader model is only when they are part of an attached unit. As a lone 5 Hyperadapted Ravenors, the attached unit part of the leader rule does not apply. And there's a short video explaining this rule again with Celestine as an example. If the Ravener Prime dies, you don't lose any special rules or abilities. You still have sustained hits on all of your attacks. You lose the Shadow and the Warp ability, which as part of a Genestealer Cult army you can't use anyway. And when the unit dies, you can use the Avenge the Star Children stratagem. Genestealer Cult units get +1 to hit and +1 to wound against the unit that destroyed your Ravener unit. The rules around this are kind of messy, as they always are with leader units that aren't just one model. Because the stratagem wants a leader unit to be destroyed, not a leader model. So you can't just take damage on the Ravener Prime, have it die, and then use the stratagem. The whole unit needs to be destroyed. Because weirdly, when the Ravener Prime model is destroyed, the unit no longer has the character keyword. So the Ravener Prime would have to be the last model to be removed, so that when the unit is destroyed, in that last enemy activation, it was a character unit. So I guess you could do some weird shenanigan things with that. If the enemy had an ability that triggered off destroying character units, you could destroy the Ravener Prime as long as some other Raveners survive. That way they have not destroyed a character unit, but they have destroyed a character model. But most things like assassination trigger off character models. Because this is different to an attached unit. These 5 models are not an attached unit. If you have a Winged Warrior Prime leading gargoyles, and through some really good precision attacks they are destroyed, they're a separate unit on death, they are a dead character unit. Because they started the game as an independent datasheet with 1 model. But you can think of the Ravener Prime as an extra tough sponge. They have more wounds. You will have to use your own tactical nuance to figure out when you want to apply wounds to the Ravener Prime. If you know a damage 4 attack is coming, yeah, you could put it on the Ravener Prime. If you're expecting to lose an average of 8 wounds, lose 2 Raveners and put the rest on the Ravener Prime. Or you may want to risk the average rolls of the armor saves and take the first 3 wounds on a Ravener and hope that you pass enough so that you only take 5 wounds out of 6 on the Ravener Prime. You could keep the Prime alive if you so wished, because if the Prime loses wounds, there is a much greater wounds cap to restore wounds. You can do that in this detachment with psionic parasitism. As long as the Ravener Prime is alive, your unit is a synapse unit. Hop over to a nearby Genestealer Cult unit and drain them of D3 +1 wounds. This can take a very badly damaged Prime almost back to full health. And when you do so, the Hyperadapted Ravener unit gets +1 to hit. So now the unit hits on a 2+, with full rerolls to wound because of Twin Linked. That makes them a lot more deadly. You can use the other part of the detachment rule, the Catalyst rule, to support Genestealer Cult charging units. If your Hyperadapted Raveners move close to an enemy unit, or charge an enemy unit, Genestealer Cult units get +1 to hit against any enemy units within 6 inches of the Raveners. The Hyperadapted Raveners could maybe speed forward and help a Patriarch and Pure Strains who will be using Hyper Ferocity as a stratagem. Then they get to fully reroll wounds with the Patriarch's Devastating Wounds. That needs a Tyranid unit within 6 inches of the target enemy. A Lictor or Von Ryan's Leapers can do it better as they're also fast moving and co-infiltrating units alongside the Pure Strains. But aside from a first or immediate second turn charge, the Raveners can speed towards enemies with their 10-inch movement, and Genestealer Cult units can shoot enemies within 6 inches of the Raveners. You can get +1 to hit on the Mining Laser of the Ridge Runner, and with a Spotter, which improves the ballistic skill by 1, that's a big Mining Laser hitting on a 2+. The Raveners could also support Metamorphs or Acolytes charging in. When it comes to damage output, there are other units available than the Raveners, like the Metamorphs. You get 18 Strength 5 damage to attacks from Hyperadapted Raveners, or 32 Strength 5 damage to attacks from the Metamorphs, including their leader. I know there is Twin Linked on the Raveners, but more attacks is better than some rerolls. and there is a 5-point difference between 10 Metamorphs and the 5 Hyperadapted Raveners. A better, more fair comparison is to Aberrants. You get more attacks from the Raveners at a slightly lower strength, but it's the same AP -2 and the same damage too. Aberrants are slow, Hyperadapted Raveners are fast. Aberrants may need a truck or try a risky 9-inch deep strike, or have to spend command points on them to use rapid ingress. Hyperadapted Raveners can use rapid ingress for free. And they are fast, pretty tough, mildly tough, but with a lot of wounds backing it up, and they have the speed to attack their perfect target and then fall back and charge with the darting attack stratagem. Don't get bogged down, don't get tied up. Get a way to drain a Genestealer Cult unit at the end of the movement phase to recover wounds, hit on a 2+, and get right back in. Snake slide to where the Genestealer Cult units need support with Catalyst. The Hyperadapted Raveners are our only anti-monster weapons that any Genestealer Cult unit has access to, and it's only in this detachment and it's only on this unit. The Hyperadapted Raveners are certainly a fighty unit, or one using the detachment rule to support other units and themselves. While they can complete secondary missions and actions and sit around on objectives, the cost compared to other fast-moving, objective-completing units isn't in the Raveners' favour. For 5 points more, you can have 2 units of 10 Gargoyles. The Gargoyles are faster. The Gargoyles can move an extra time after shooting to move even faster. The Gargoyles' Flesh Borers are assault weapons, so they can advance and shoot and then do that extra move. They can deep strike like the Raveners, and with their ability to fly over enemies, they can potentially target more enemy units with that Catalyst aura. The Hyperadapted Raveners have a role, you need to keep them to that role. There is far more analysis of the Tyranid units within the Final Day Detachment video. That is what I recommend you look at next for alternatives to the Hyperadapted Raveners and to look at what other possible roles they could have. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.